Earlier this year, entirely by chance, an astonishing discovery was made. A discovery which sheds new light on a mystery spanning thousands of years, and one which very easily could never have been made at all. Whilst visiting the Armenian monastery on St. Lazarus Island in Venice, a PhD candidate with a background in ancient swords chanced upon a display cabinet purporting to contain a collection of medieval weapons, acquired over a century before. Having studied for a master's degree in the origin and evolution of the earliest swords in the world, when Vittoria dall'Armelina of the University of Venice cited one particular sword, she was perfectly qualified to question its identity. Realising a distinct similarity with examples she'd worked with in far-off eastern Anatolia. Subsequent tests undertaken by the University of Padua revealed the sword to not be medieval at all, but a nearly 5,000-year-old early Bronze Age sabre. One of the earliest examples ever found in the world. Unleashing a torrent of questions. Where is the sword from? How did it get to Venice? And who made it in the first place? Let's find out. The Armenian monastery in Venice may seem an unusual place for a find many researchers are calling the oldest sword in the world. But upon scouring the archives of the place, which include libraries, printing offices, and a residential complex alongside its museum, a worn-out envelope was found, which had accompanied the sword when it was gifted to the monastery over a century before. A note on the envelope, written in Armenian, speaks of a donation by Father Gevond Alishan, a famous 19th century writer, poet, archaeologist and monk who died in Venice in 1901. A noted academic of his time, Alishan associated with many of the noted literary figures of his era. And upon further investigations, he seems to have come into possession of the sword via a merchant named Yervant Khorasandzian. Sailing from the Black Sea port city of Trabzon, the sword had been taken to Venice with a collection of other objects, perhaps acquired on the black market from ancient sites in eastern Anatolia. Coincidentally, a region long associated with some of the oldest swords in the world. The sword itself, which doesn't resemble most ancient weapons in the world, having no inscriptions or visible decorations on it, has led many experts to surmise that it may have actually been used for day-to-day combat rather than ceremonial purposes like the swords usually found. Analysis of the metal composition of the sword, carried out in collaboration with the University of Padua, determined that it was made of a unique blend of copper and tin, in use around 3000 BC. There is a site Vittoria dall'Armelina had been working on, where 9 similar swords have been found over the years. A royal palace dating back 8,000 years, into the murky origins of metallurgy. For the vast majority of written history, in almost every society exposed to metallurgy, and even some that weren't, the sword has been the weapon of choice for those who could afford it. In the world wars of the 20th century, the weapon was still being used. In the 19th century, when cavalry still dominated battlefields, it was integral, and still, as it had been for millennia, a status symbol for officers, almost as soon as metallurgy evolved in Europe, the sword came with it. Though researchers have often wondered where the very first swords originated. It may well be that this style of weapon evolved independently in many areas, but nevertheless, surely there is an oldest place where this technology was harnessed for the first time. One site in modern-day Turkey contains the first examples known to us so far. This is Aslantepe, the Hill of the Lions. At around 3000 BC, when the sword was made, burials at this site begin to be adorned with a rich array of grave goods, glittering jewels and ornate, intricately carved swords. Yet these were more than just weapons or status symbols. Swords at this time were religious items, forged by magic. Those who knew the secret of how to make them held power. A sign of the emergence of a new warrior elite. Maybe this sword was one of theirs, evidence of how they maintained their power. Weapons that would soon spread outwards, altering human society forever. Located in an excellent geographic position near the ancient highways of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in the first millennium BC, this site became the royal capital of the Neo-Hittite Empire, a vast and powerful state left over from the Bronze Age. Later, it suffered attack by the Assyrians, Cimmerians, and Scythians respectively, only fully being abandoned during Roman and Byzantine times. During all these eras, Aslantepe was already an ancient place, having a history stretching back into the 6th millennium BC, a time when people first experimented with metal and gold. We know it as the Chalcolithic or Copper Age. Some historians have even associated this site with the forging of complex, hierarchical societies in this region. Perhaps one of the first centralized political states in the area. This was certainly a place of prestige, and just maybe one of the first places in the world where swords were made. Whilst more research is undertaken, we can but speculate. You've been watching Archaeology News. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.